Continue watching to learn how to create a procedurally generated hair texture in Blender that you can use to model magnificent beards and mustaches or any other hairy object. So let's fire up Blender and add a simple plane. But just before we jump into shader nodes, first let's create a material, go to its settings and set the blend mode to alpha blend. Now, let's switch to the shading viewport. We don't need all of the configurations on Blender's principled BSDF shader, so let's delete that and replace it with Blender's simple diffuse shader and give it a fiery red color. To create the base of the hair texture, let's set up the main branch of the shader graph. To do this, use the search field in the add menu and insert a texture coordinate node, a mapping node, a Voronoi texture node, and a color ramp node. Connect the UV output of the texture coordinate node to the mapping node and use the mapping to scale the UVs along the x-axis. Set the Voronoi texture to 2D and select the distance to edge option. For the color ramp node, you can simply drag and drop the red color from the diffuse shader. This branch of nodes gives us the base of the hair texture. You can use the X scale on the mapping node to give the strands of hair more thickness or to make them appear thinner. Now, to give our hair texture some waves, let's add a noise texture node and a mix RGB node. Here, the Mix RGB node adds distortion to the UV map by interpolating between the original straight UV map and the noise texture. You can tweak the intensity of the waves using the Mix RGB node. And you can change the size of the waves using the noise texture node. Now, to make each individual strand of hair stand out, let's add another branch of nodes to our shader graph. For this branch, add a value node, another Voronoi texture node, a separate XYZ node, 3 math nodes, Blender's transparent shader node, and a mix shader node. Connect the value node to both of the Voronoi textures. This will allow us to scale both Voronoi textures at the same time. For the new Voronoi texture, make sure to select 2D and set it to calculate the F1 value. Here, we'll be using the position output of the Voronoi texture. This output, in combination with the XYZ separate node and the special arrangement of the math nodes, enables us to limit the number of strands drawn by the shader. In this setup, we want to remove those strands of hair where the ends fall outside of the plane object. Blender's transparent shader node helps us hide these outlying strands. When setting the parameters of the math nodes, be careful to use numbers that correspond to the scales we used earlier in the mapping node. You can add or eliminate more strands of hair from the texture using the fields on the math nodes. Click here to see more tutorials. As for this video, thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.